it just never ends for us Sixers fans, does it? Paul George now undergoing arthroscopic surgery on his left knee as we sit here in July, months before the start of the NBA season. The injuries are already piling up for the 76ers. Unbelievable. I'm Jake Chipper. You're watching 76ers now, and we got you covered with all the latest right here on Paul George. Shams Charania breaking the news just moments ago that PG underwent a successful arthroscopic procedure on his left knee on Monday to treat an injury suffered during a recent workout. George will now begin a rehab program, be reevaluated prior to the start of training camp, which will be in September. And then some further details on the procedure here, actually performed by the same doctor who most recently operated on Joel Embiid's arthroscopic surgery that we also haven't heard a whole lot of details about either. So doctor getting a lot of work here with the Sixers, to no surprise, as it seems every year this team is the one always having the most injuries. Now we'll dive more into this. Is Paul George cooked? Is he not? I'll give you my full thoughts on this unfortunate situation. But guys, this is why you subscribe through the good, through the bad, no matter what happens with the Sixers. We always got you covered right here on the channel. Looking to get to 24,000 subscribers, just under 700 subs away. Lock us in. Hit that sub button for the most up-to-date Sixers coverage you will find on YouTube. There's some more context from Kyle Neubeck on this Paul George surgery that maybe makes you feel a little bit better, but as I'll talk about, I'm still not feeling great about this whole situation. A source familiar with George's injury told me this was essentially an arthroscopic cleanup and did not involve the major ligaments. Don't know much more than that as of yet, and still as of yet don't have any further details on the injury at this point. Now look, it is an arthroscopic surgery, right? So for those of you who do know, that's just small incisions. They're not going making any major cuts and major surgery on the knee, right? It is a smaller procedure in general, but with the player and the team, with Paul George in Philadelphia, it just still seems like every year we hear these type of things, that a player, usually it's Joel Embiid, is undergoing some type of minor cleanup procedure. Everything is going to be okay. He'll make a recovery. And then there's a setback, there's another injury. It just never quite goes the way you want it to go. And look, when you look at Paul George, of course, you go back to the signing just over a year ago. I was a big fan. Thought he was going to really come in and make a major impact on this team. And then we get to the start of the season, and he hyperextends that knee a couple of times. Is never really healthy the entire season. And so, obviously, over his career, Paul George has had his injury concerns, but his last year with the Clippers, he did stay relatively healthy. So I was confident that he could do that last year with Philadelphia. That did not happen. From the very beginning of the year when he suffered that hyperextended knee, he was pretty much playing through injury the rest of the year before eventually being shut down. So over the past few weeks, and really since the season's ended, we've had conversations like, is Paul George actually washed? Can he just no longer play basketball at an elite level anymore? Or is it just the injuries? And once he comes back from the injuries fully healthy this year, will we see a better version of Paul George? Well, unfortunately, here he is now dealing with another injury. And look, I feel bad for him, right? Having to deal with this once again. He felt good heading up into the beginning of last season and then dealt with those injuries that really hampered his start. Now, here he is again trying to get healthy to turn around what was an awful year last season, now dealing with another injury. Now, look, with the nature of it being arthroscopic, he's going to be reevaluated before training camp, which is a little bit early for Philadelphia because they do play preseason out of the country, but should be good to go by the start of the regular season based off this timing. We're still, July, September, October, August, September, October, 3 months away from the start of the regular season and a couple months from the start of training camp. So you'd think he should be good to go by then. But I just get worried that there could be lingering effects, that a player who has dealt with knee injuries and all these injuries over his career, it just keeps adding up. So do I think Paul George can't play basketball anymore from a skill perspective? I think he's still a skilled basketball player when he's out there. Unfortunately, it doesn't really matter how skilled of a player he still is if he cannot stay healthy. So hopefully And I'll be praying for Paul George that he can recover quickly so he has enough time to get into a groove before the start of the season. But anytime you're talking about surgeries and knee surgeries with this team and with Paul George, it just usually does not end up ending well. Maybe this can be a different scenario here, and Paul George can have a big bounce back season. But I'd be lying to you if I said I was confident that he can bounce back from this and this team can bounce back from this and that he'll end up playing, 70 plus games for Philadelphia like he did his last year with the Clippers. But all we could do is really hope and pray that this injury has not become something worse and that he is able to make a full recovery. It's just arthroscopic again, so we shall see. But be honest with me right now after hearing all this information, knowing that it's supposedly just a cleanup procedure, but also knowing the history of the team and the player. How concerned are you with this newest Paul George injury that he suffered during an offseason workout? Scale it for me 1 through 10. 1 being, you're not worried at all. It's no big deal. He'll be totally fine. 10 being, it's over. He's not going to play at all this season. Get down to the comment section. Let me know. Now, talking about his play, right? You look at Paul George's season as a whole last year, and look, obviously it was disappointing. But as I mentioned, dealt with injuries from day one. Not that I'm trying to defend him, really, because even when he was healthy, he wasn't playing very good basketball. And that's where people get concerned, is the injuries paired with the decrease of play. But I will say this. You compare these numbers on your screen right now, which, are decent, nothing crazy, and you compare them to what he was doing in January, and look, he had a better stretch in the month of January when he was finally fully healthy. We saw what he was able to do when he wasn't thinking about that knee injury that he suffered early on in the year, and he was able to play comfortable basketball. He was playing efficient basketball, granted only over a 10-game sample stretch. So is that Paul George still in there? I find it hard to believe that even if it is, he can sustain that for a full period of time. Taking a look at the way the Sixers roster is constructed right now. If he does have to miss some time at the start of the regular season, you imagine Quentin Grimes will be on this roster sooner rather than later to fill out your full 15-man roster, and he slots in starting at the 2. Then I imagine maybe Justin Edwards slides in, starts at the 3. Maybe you consider putting Jeoge in that starting lineup for a little bit as well. I don't think Broom or Watford will show enough early on to be inserted into that starting lineup. But man, I saw the notification that Paul George was going to be going down with this injury, and I was like, man, here we go again. Hello, darkness, my old friend. It's just unbelievable the way that these type of things seem to happen to this team year after year after year. And look, it's not all a curse, right? Part of it is on Daryl Morey for, going out and getting all these older, formerly injury-prone players. It's kind of just what happens as these guys get older. But, between the Jeoge injury that just happened, even though that's not too serious, between what we heard about Joel Embiid recently, that he's hopeful and expected to be ready before the start of the season, according to Daryl Morey, and now we get this as well. I just, for once, want to have good vibes heading into the year. And we had those until the Paul George and Joel Embiid injuries last year. And we had those after that first VJ Edgecombe Summer League game. That he goes down, we get some bad news on Embiid, and now we're getting bad news here on Paul George. Can we ever head into a year without issues, without having to feel like there's something to be worried about, man? It's impossible for this team, but maybe things will turn around. Hopefully he can be ready for the start of the season, because this Sixers team will need a fully healthy Paul George if they want to be where they want to be, of course, in addition to Joel Embiid. If you want to give me a follow over on social media, I'd really, really appreciate it. We did a short on this Paul George injury shortly before filming this, and that went up on my social media, so you would have been the first to know before this video was even posted by following me over there. Always love to chop it up with the people, just another way to interact with y'all. I'm on X at Jake Chipper. Then Instagram is our team Instagram account at 76ers Now IG. You can find us on both of those platforms. Appreciate you all checking in, watching today's video, and let's hope that this Paul George injury gets better soon.